Are you looking for a format for starting a mastermind group? In this video, I'm going to go over some general rules and an actual format that you can use for any of your mastermind groups that you have. Hi, this is Jeremy Stark here from Evergreen Growth Marketing. Today, I wanted to just share with you, some of the tips that I've picked up over the years with doing mastermind groups. Before we get started, I wanted to just ask if you could please like this video if you find it really helpful for you. Also, if you could hit that subscribe button, that way there you get any kind of tips that we have. Mostly we'll do things on marketing and anything that will help out small businesses. So now that we get that out of the way, let's get right into it. If you're not familiar with mastermind groups, they are groups that are formed with many different people, and they can be anybody that's in your particular industry or in your some kind of vertical that you have in business. Like if you're a blogger, you can have a mastermind group of all bloggers. Or if you're a local business, you might have other small local businesses that could also members that could be in the group as well. I really came up with this format, through a couple of different groups that I've been a part of. Some of them have had an actual format, and they were very successful, and we all thrived, and it was very effective for all of us. And then I did have some other groups that were just kind of loosely put together, and they were still helpful, but they just didn't seem to be as effective to give us the best results for everybody. The concept actually comes from it's from a very popular book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he basically popularized this whole idea that the concept of many minds are really powerful and harmonious when they're basically working towards an ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is to really help each other grow in their, whatever their aspirations are. So that really came about. That's an excellent book, by the way. If you don't have it, I definitely suggest to take a look at it. I'll put a link down there. And then I also have a post that you can go to if you wanted to check out more details about the actual format. But I wanted to get right into it. I don't want to waste any of your valuable time. Just for any kind of group that you have to have some type of rules or some type of format, really, to make sure that it's effective for everybody. And one of the things that you want to make sure is the most important thing out of any of the rules that you have. Now, I have a list of different rules that I've come up with and work with in other groups. But the really main point is you want everybody to buy into it. So if somebody doesn't agree with something, then maybe you should change it around or come up with something that everybody agrees with. But this is a good start for it. So one of the things, the first thing you have to make sure is that you might have different people in your group that are from different industries, like marketing. Might have somebody in like finance and everything else. So one of the things you want to make sure is that there's no particular direct sales pitches to somebody. It really is just you need to make it an environment that it's comfortable for everybody, and everybody's able to just be honest and share feedback with each other during that time. And it's also, you try to have it at a specific time and a day every time if you can. And then you're also making sure that everybody's feedback is taken in with it. Just really and it doesn't mean that you can't work with anybody. If there's an expert and you want to work with them, use that availability, use that resource at another time. So nothing in the actual group about that. Secondly, the most important thing is attendance. You want to have some kind of agreed upon way, that you can't miss one. If you have a weekly, maybe miss one a month or something that everybody agrees on, because it's really important. If you're not in the hot seat, people still could use your feedback, and you might be one of those experts that could help them at that time. And then of course they were there, they may have been there for you or so. It's just really it's something. If you don't have any monetary kind of way to hold the group together, then it's just really, that's your word is really the only thing you can go by. The other thing also on top of that is you want to make sure that everybody gives their focused attention to each particular person. You're really only giving up 1 hour per week. You can have it for longer, but if for smaller groups, an hour is usually pretty good. And the goal really is to make sure that you are focusing on one another during this time. You also have to have full participation from everybody. So you don't want somebody who might be a little bit introvert, they might not talk as much. and then you have the other extreme where they might take over. So you want to make sure you have some sort of balance of that where everybody's participating, but it's not always dominated by one particular person. The next thing you want to make sure you have is confidentiality, of course. That just kind of goes without saying. And then you want to also have honest feedback from everybody. When it's their turn for the week, and you want to make sure that that person is getting the right feedback for their problems that they're having. And the more honest that you can be, the more effective that this type of meeting is gonna be for everybody. And then you really want to have somebody that is a leader or a designated facilitator, because if you have the schedule that we'll go over, you want to have somebody that kind of is able to keep track of the time and just kind of help things move along, because you want to respect everybody's time during this. It's just a way to keep the meeting going and keeping everything on time, and just making sure that everything flows correctly. Now let's get into the actual format, because once you have the rules, you need to have some sort of format. So this is set up for just an hour. You could do this with maybe 5 to 8 people, maybe 10. You could still fit it in an hour, but trying to give everybody enough time to talk about some of these. You might, if you usually after 6 or 7, you might want to change the time and everything. So this is just kind of a loose way to show you with it. The very first 5 minutes, everybody gets on and they show up to the meeting. Now you can have these, like I said, you can have these online or you can have these in person. But for sake of just doing this for online, you want to make sure that everybody's on there logged in before, and then you want to start promptly at the meeting. So the very first minute is what I call the WWW, the wins and warrior wounds. So everybody is going to go around and they're going to tell what their victories and their challenges that they may have overcome for this week. This is not a deep dive into anybody's particular problems. It's more of just like a bullet kind of thing. So maybe like a 1-sentence thing of what you did that particular week and what was your win and what was your struggle for that week, just so everybody has a chance to speak in the meeting. And you try to do that in the very first 5 minutes. So maybe keep it about 20 to 30 seconds for each person. Once everybody's had a chance to go around for that, then the next 10 minutes, so from minute 5 to say minute 15, it's what I call your GA score. It's your goals accomplished for the week. So you want to basically, this is where you can go into a little bit more detail about what your specific goals were that week. Maybe a 1 to 2 minutes per person. So in the first 5 minutes, it's more like a headline. And then this part right here is more of just get a little bit more in the details. So maybe you have one win for each person. What did I commit to last week? Did I accomplish this? Basically just expanding a little bit on your headline that you had, just to give it. And if it's been a couple weeks, you can also maybe give an update to something that you had done before, and everybody's kind of following along. Like if you had a project that you were trying to complete. So that's really the first 15 minutes. It's kind of giving everybody a chance to go around and major win and obstacle for the week. The next 30 minutes, this is the time that is spent on one particular person. This is where the group really shines with helping out each individual. Some people will call it the hot seat. I like to call it the MINS SOS, and that stands for the SOS stands for Spotlight Obstacle Seat. I know all these acronyms that you hear. So here's another one for you. But I like SOS. It just seems like you're throwing out the SOS and sometimes you need some help with everything. These is where you go into more detail about some of the obstacles that you had. These are maybe specific questions or challenges that you've had for the week, or just maybe just how you're going to work on something. So if you come up with a new product, possibly you can just start talking about that and how what challenges you're facing, or how you're going to accomplish getting those all those details that you need to get everything in place. So sometimes having a sounding board will help out for that. So the person that's in this particular seat, you really need to do some preparation before the actual meeting. You want to come to the meeting with just even if it's just a bullet list of some of the things that you're working on, your obstacles, and just have an idea of some of the questions. And you got to get really specific about this stuff. You don't want to just, be very broad about what you're doing, like, just saying something, if you're trying to create a product or something, say, I got an idea for a product on, maybe if you're like a tax CPA and you want to, I want to come up with some course for something. Well, that's that's great. That's kind of broad. You want to have a course or something. What is it in the course? Maybe come up with a list of what you want to come up with on a course. Maybe what would you want to ask? What would people want to know if they wanted to see a course like this? All those questions, the more specific that you get, the better answers, the better feedback that you're going to get, and the honest feedback you're going to get from everybody else in the group. So really just spend some time before the meeting and come up with the list of that and just what you want to talk about before you get there. Preparing ahead of time is really going to do a couple of different things. First, it's going to help you get ready for the meeting. And secondly, if you actually prepare for it, you might actually solve some of the problems that they're actually having. Sometimes writing it down and making a list and kind of bringing it to fruition out there, and maybe just that weight of it coming off of your shoulders, like you feel like you're going to get help with it, might actually help you fix that problem. Or it might lead to other questions or other problems that you come up with, and then you could bring those to the meeting as well. So it really does it really does helpful if you do get that worked out for you. Ask all your detailed questions. You want to get feedback from everybody in the group. You don't want to just have one person's feedback, even if they're not an expert in that area. There might be other folks that are in your group that have different perspective to things. So really ask everybody what their opinion is and what they would do, and maybe some other questions that they have or feedback that they have during that. Sometimes it might be difficult for people to really hear the truth, but it really is effective if you take this in and you just kind of take it with a blank mind, of what you can do, an open mind as far as how you can make these improvements, because this is what the whole point of the group is to get to get feedback from everybody, as well as really help you move forward. So it's really important that you make sure that you're getting the feedback and the buyback from everybody, based off of all the questions that you may have. So once you've gotten everybody to give you their feedback, basically there's about 15 minutes left. So a minute 45, to about 59 minutes. So you want to leave a minute at the end there. So from minute 45 to 59 is what you want to focus on each person is going to be focused on now is what I call is the come-ins and what's coming up next week, basically. So you want to have what your current objective is, and the most important next step for that current objective. So it's not just enough to just say that you need to do this, but what are you going to do to move that forward, in your project, your whatever else you're doing, planning ahead for that, because that's really the next step that you have to take in order to move that forward. It could be small, it could be little, it could be part of everything, but come up with that. So each person is going to do this. What they're going to discuss, maybe one objective, for the next week, and then what next step they're going to do that's going to have the best impact, to move that forward. So and then everybody's going to go around and just kind of talk about that and what it is for the next week. At the end of maybe the last minute is really for the facilitator. Just remind the next person that's in the hot seat or the SOS seat, to be ready for next week. So you have a schedule of who's going to be in that particular seat each week, so you know in advance. But just a reminder so that nobody's caught off surprise next week when you guys have it, or whenever the next meeting is. Just make sure that they're reminded of that particular period. If you guys are going to facilitate, if you're going to switch around the facilitator, maybe come up with who's going to facilitate the next meeting, or if somebody is not able to make the next one, you kind of say the last minute for those particular things. But really, this structure right here that I gave you it's pretty simple. It can be changed around, and if you have more people, you might have to change the amount of time that you have in the SOS seat, or you can just change the time around or what you discuss and everything. But really, just having this format is something that will help move the meeting forward, and really it's going to help everybody use the time effectively for helping each other out. And that's really the ultimate goal for this type of meeting. Hopefully you found this video really helpful. If you could, please like this video. Also subscribe to our channel. We give you lots of tips on basically anything with digital marketing, as well as other small business helpful tips, and maybe a little bit of entrepreneur tips as well. And stay tuned for the next video.